I've got a problem.
Hey all you cool cats and kittens. Today I am tearing into the shifter again. I actually tried to go take it out the other day and it ran like crap. I've come to the conclusion that this thing is pig rich. I'm up in Utah, so I'm like 5,000 feet elevation. I bought this cart down in Vegas, so I think I looked up and they're like 2,000 feet. So pretty sure she's running rich. Spark plug's super wet. Barely even run. It was breaking up at high RPMs. That's when, after forever of push starting and just hating life, so I got home and I was actually just cleaning stuff out and kind of tinkering on it a little bit. And when I took the exhaust off, I noticed that inside the back of the muffler here, which at the time this plate was in there because it just has some nuts on it that thread into there to hold this plate inside the muffler or silencer, it was kind of cracked right here. So I took it off and it was literally broken right off of this flange. The more research I did and the more looking at it I did and looking at pictures of these pipes on the internet, I realized that someone had welded what this used to be a part of the silencer. They welded it right here to my expansion pipe. So here we are with a cracked flange and a pipe that's welded on here. So I'm going to try my best. I'm fairly confident that I can grind this off and save my pipe. I'm not super confident I'm going to be able to save this piece, but we're going to try it. If I can get that off, then I'm going to go ahead and try and weld this back onto here, repack this, and have a fairly cheap fix. But if that doesn't go as planned, then I'll end up probably having to suck it up and buy a new silencer. Alright, so as you can see, I think I'm going through at least one layer of metal. I'm really worried I don't want to go too deep and get into the pipe too much. So at this point, I think I might just grab like a big flat head screwdriver and just not pry on it, but just kind of see if there's any spots loosening up. It seems like you can kind of see where spots are still connected and then other spots where they're free. So I'm pretty sure that I have cut it deep enough into the groove, but it's still not coming free. I've been kind of beating on it with a screwdriver and a mallet. It's not coming, so I think the next step is just to try and cut a slit down the length of this piece here and just get it off of here. Because I'm worried if I'm hammering on it like this, depending on where the weld really is holding, I might end up just breaking the end of the pipe. And if anything, I want to try and save this pipe. So here we go, more cutting. Victory, I finally got her to snap. See how it's all wobbling around, but see how that piece is separate now. Now I should be able to get it off. Ah, there we go. What I can tell so far, I think I did minimal damage. So I figured before I go order any metal, I might as well try and salvage this piece. So this morning, I went ahead and welded the seam up that I had to cut. And I know it's not pretty. I basically, I don't know what you would call it. I basically just paint with weld. So it started out okay, and then I think as the piece heated up, it started to get nasty and tried to burn off. So I brought my temp down a little bit, and then that worked pretty well. I didn't penetrate super deep, which I didn't really want because I didn't want it to not fit anymore. I didn't want a bunch of weld inside this hole. So I had this piece from when I installed my water heater. It mic'd at like 0.99 something, and it still fits. The reason why it's not going in very far, and the reason I think it didn't want to come off yesterday, is there's a little lip, or I don't know if it's a set screw or what, that they ended up welding over. See that set screw or something sticking up? So I'm pretty sure that's why it didn't want to come off. And then once I split it, it released the pressure on that and it would pop right off. But that means I gotta get that guy out of there next, because it's not gonna slide on with that there. So I'm gonna probably use a die grinder to try and take that off. And then I'm gonna try and leave this piece on, this kind of ring around here, because that's actually where it broke off on the flange, so it should kind of line up. But the rest of it, like all this weld can come off. And then I'll probably just try with maybe a sand or something less aggressive than a grinder to clean up just the surface of it, just to clean it up a little bit. And grind down this weld flush so it won't look all nasty. Ideally, you won't even tell there's a weld there, but you'll totally be able to tell because I'm not that good. Alright, so outside of the pipe, the weld is right there, so I just ground it as flush as I could. I actually went a little bit overboard on this side, and actually had to pop a little bit more weld onto it and grind it down. And I didn't want to test my luck too much, so when it started to melt a little bit, I stopped right there when I was welding. So it's not fully welded, but it's pretty good. Well, I'm actually looking at the wrong end. It was this end that I went a little, you might be able to see it there. The sidewall got a little thin there on me. I cleaned it up, it's pretty smooth. Ground that down, and then I used my very underpriced and overworked sander here just to kind of try and take out all the little dings and gouges. I didn't want to like go crazy with it, but I think it just, you know, smoothed it out a little bit, all the grinding marks and such. So there we are. So this is the flange that's going to actually sit over here, and you can see where it broke. I left all that on there because you can almost piece it back together. You see where that piece is taken out? That's actually this area right here. So I think my next step is going to be to weld that flange onto here, and then maybe clean it up a little bit, and then I'm debating on what I want to do about having some type of hook so that I can use springs to hold the muffler onto the pipe. I've already got hooks on my pipe right there, so I'm thinking I need something similar on this end. Alright guys, here she is before welding. This is the side I'm going to weld. There you go. You can kind of see how it lines up. It's kind of like putting a coffee mug or something back together and trying to line up the cracks and make it all fit together perfect. So the plan is I'm just going to try and tack it in one or two spots and then check it for being true. purdy, but she's free. So I'll make sure to double check that and make sure there's no holes, but the reason it looks all globby like that is I only did maybe, ½ inch at a time tops, just to avoid heat in one spot. So I was moving around a lot. But I mean, it's not pretty, and it is MIG, so MIG's usually not that pretty, and I'm not a trained welder, so this is kind of just, you do what you got to do to make something work and save a little bit of money. I mentioned earlier that I'm going to need some type of a, like a hook that I can hook a spring to hold this silencer onto the pipe. So this is just a piece of welding rod. I'm just going to take 1 or 2 of these and weld it onto this piece, and I think that'll do just fine. So let's go ahead and get this thing back together. Here's just kind of a quick montage. Cleaning up the pipe with some degreaser. I'm gonna go ahead and paint it up here in a minute after I get it all cleaned up. Here we go, some nice high temp paint, so hopefully it doesn't just melt off. This stuff is made for like 1,000 degrees or something ridiculous like that, so it should work out. I got the kids playing in the background, I noticed afterwards as I was editing. I could actually see that paint drying as I was laying it on. It, like sitting out in the sun, it dried so quickly. So I mentioned earlier that this thing is running rich. The spark plug was black and soaking wet. So I figured while the exhaust was off, I might as well go in and change all the jets out. I am kind of breaking one of the rules. I've heard, you only want to make one change at a time, but since everything from what I could tell is rich compared to how these things would ship out of the box, I went ahead and just tried my best to set it to a pretty normal setting. So I'm bringing the primary jet 2 steps leaner, the main jet, man, almost 5 steps. I'm going from it's a 182 main jet to a 175, and the primary is going from a 55 down to a 50. And then I'm also changing the needle to what SwedeTech recommends for their just a generic CR125 with the same fuel system that I've got. And getting that needle out, and there it is. Oh, and then I figured since that spark plug was so nasty, it was probably super fouled out. So checked the gap on that. It was about 24 thou, and Googled that, and it looked right. So figured I'd slap a new plug in there. And time to repack that silencer. The old stuff, I should have showed it on camera, but it was totally clogged up, super nasty, but it was only on the very center of it. My thought is that it was way too tightly packed before, because I had to sit there and like hammer on the inside of it to even get the core and everything to come out. After repacking it, doing this, I realized that everything went back together about 10 times easier than it came apart. So I'm pretty sure everything was packed way too tightly in this silencer to begin with. Yeah, I really didn't think it was just gonna, not fall into place, but you know, just working it slowly, it worked right in there. And then one thing, I should have probably put RTV either on the inside of the canister before I put anything in, or on that flange that I fixed before I pushed it down into the canister, because it sucked. I tried to just kind of rotate the innards to try and get a nice bead along there so that it'll seal, but it was really tricky and kind of sucked and got messy. And then in the process of doing that, the insulation kind of tried to back its way back out. And so I kind of had a hard time putting the end cap on. You'll see here in a minute. Once I got smart and screwed this end in that you see right now and locked all that into place, it got a lot easier, but trying to mess with two different ends at the same time was super difficult. See, now I have to try and push down the insulation to try and get this cap on, and then it kept trying to get caught between the housing and the cap. And then I kind of thought about RTV for a minute there and thought, yeah, there wasn't any before, and it's the very end of the exhaust. It probably doesn't really matter if it leaks right there. So probably not worth gumming everything up. And there we go, got some screws started and we're good to go. And there she is. All right. So as you can see, the silencer doesn't quite sit on the pipe as far as it probably should. I probably should have massaged it a little bit more with the die grinder, but I just didn't want to take too much material off. I figure with that like rubber coupling seal thing there that I got, it should be okay. And then I got the nice new springs on there to hold it on. So no more weld right there. And some clamps to finish everything off. Don't forget your air cleaner. And the cart is back together. I couldn't leave you guys hanging without at least letting you hear it start up and run. Here we go. So there you have it, she runs. So a couple questions for you more experienced karters out there if you're watching. Number one, whenever you drain your float bowl to change jets, how do you get gas back into there? When I Googled it, I came up with a bunch of dirt bike guys and they all have the tank on top and it's gravity fed and it's not a problem. They just open their fuel valve and the carburetor fills. I did it just by blowing on the vent tube, but I feel like there's got to be a more hygienic and a little bit easier way, less nasty. Also, when I tip my cart forward to get it off the stand, fuel drains out of one of my drain valves or drain tubes, I should say, on the carburetor. Is that normal, and is there something that I can do about it? I guess one last question. When it started up, you might be able to hear it on the video, that there's kind of, I don't know if it's a ping, I don't think it is, but it goes away when it warms up. Just like it sounds like a pinging sound, but I don't think it's an engine ping, if that makes any sense. And if you heard that and it sounds weird, let me know. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching.